how do you see the situation in Palestine? What kind of racism, dehumanization, and violence we are seeing there?
Well, I completely agree with your characterization of it being heartbreaking. Um, it's uh, it seems like an unsolvable situation from the. It's just been looking worse and worse. Israeli opinions have been moving more to the right with each passing year, less interest in a two-state solution, less interest in anything like that. A lot of that obviously has to do with Israel's equivalent to Donald Trump, Netanyahu, who has been a nightmare in terms of the impact that he has had. But it's not just him, it's not just the leadership, it's just with enough generations of hatred. Um, um, on the other hand, if you had asked me the same question in 1990 about Northern Ireland, I would have said the same thing. It was at that point 40 years into an absolutely impossible, heartbreaking situation of hatred and domination and violence and retributive violence and back and forth. And somehow they managed to do it. And it seemed as hopeless at the time as does Palestine and Israel at this point. And, you know, I hold out a little bit of hope for that, trying to understand what happened in Northern Ireland. And it may possibly occur here again. There are 25-year-olds there who have no idea what it means to have a British soldier come and force you to lie on the ground and demand to know what you have in your pockets. That's history. 25-year-olds there, and everyone younger has never experienced that. Like 300 years of England crushing Ireland and Northern Ireland. There's 25-year-olds for whom it's just history books, or it's something that their parents will get agitated and angry and haunted looking about. You know, it can happen, but it's going to take enormous shifts there. I wonder sometimes, and I'm very taken with how much of intergroup conflict is the outcome of a hidden third party setting it up in the first place, pitting one group of weak against another group of weak and have them fight each other instead of recognizing who is really responsible. And that's, you know, always a good strategy for keeping the weak at each other's throats instead of going after the actual enemy. And, you know, the Mideast, this many years on, it has been like 1967. That's been a long time since the West Bank has been, you know, being crushed by Israel in this regard. That's a long time, a long time. But when one analyzes it, the Mideast conflict is the last worst disastrous criminal act of 300 years of European colonialism. Finally, World War II, European colonials, they're so broken down that they can't even control India anymore or Tanzania anymore. And they're recognizing that freedom has to come, and like, hooray, change is coming. And then at the last moment, when they had a chance to finally begin to come out of 300 years of British colonialism, the last thing they do before going out the back door is saying, oh yeah, those poor European Jews, wow, that's really terrible, the Holocaust. Wow, we feel so badly for 1,000 years of European anti-Semitism. Wow, we finally have woken up to that. So we're finally going to do something for all of you survivors of Hitler. We're going to give you their land. We're going to give you land that we don't own. We're going to try to solve that problem in our 1,000 years of guilt by giving away somebody else's land. Like, it's crazy. The last gasp of European colonialism that guaranteed Northern Ireland and Latin America and like everywhere, like just when they're waking up, their last thought is, oh yeah, let's solve that one by giving away Palestine. That's how we're going to solve it. And here, let's take a bunch of refugees that just survived Hitler, and let's take a bunch of people who've spent forever under British control or Ottoman control or whatever, and let's have the two of you fight it out for the next 80 years and pretend it's each other's fault. It's damn European colonialism that set that up. I think everything neurobiologically tells us that it is virtually guaranteed that we divide the world into us and them. We do it in a fraction of a second. We do it under the control of various hormones. We do it in the same ways that other primates do. All of that. It is incredibly ingrained in us. And for us to be terrible to the thems and to decide that the us's are way better than we actually are. So that's the bad news. The good news amid that, though, is unlike chimps, unlike baboons, unlike any other species, we have multiple categories of us's and thems in our heads. And which category seems most important at any given point can change in a second, can change. And a lot of research suggests that race is not as fundamental of a category in our brains as one would often conclude. Okay, so that's some good news there. Where's the bad news lurking in that? What that means is if it is very, very easy to manipulate us into circumstances where a them can turn into an us. Hooray, wonderful, heartwarming, very good demagogues and dictators and sociopaths and things of that sort are very, very good at manipulating us into turning us's into thems. And the really good ones historically at that are better than any psychologist or neurobiologist at understanding how to make us turn us into someone who hardly even counts as a human. So that same potential we have for changing categories, in the wrong hands, we are so easily manipulated.